Match 6 of week 1. Here we are. We have the final match to go through. This is going to be Skaven versus Orks, the FranSewer 69ers versus Blinkan's Bruisers. A little bit late on this one, a bit busy the past few days, so I need to start catching up on some of these. We already have a couple matches done for week 2, but it shouldn't be too difficult for me. So, right here, you can see that we have 8 skill points for the Skaven in this match and 7 skill points for the Orks. Not a very skill point heavy match at all, but the Skaven did get 5 skill points on a gutter runner, which is pretty nasty. Gonna go ahead and look at the Skaven team real quick before we get started. I don't really feel the need to look over the Ork team again. What I will say about the Ork team is that they... Where am I going here? What I will say about the Ork team is that they did bring a Goblin as opposed to the Ork team we looked at before. This Goblin is exactly the same as Goblin you would find on any other team, so that I don't really feel the need to get in depth about that. Now, the Skaven can normally field 5 different players. I'm not going to look at the 5th because this player didn't bring it, but it is a Rat Ogre, which is a big guy. First off, we have linemen, which are 7 movement, 3 strength, 3 agility, 7 armor. 50k, only have access to general skills, don't have anything else. Nothing special whatsoever. Lower armor than you would normally see on a lineman, so something to think about there. Brought a thrower, 7 movement, 3 strength, 3 agility, 7 armor. Once again, lower than average armor, but starts with pass and sure hands, so it could pretty easily get to the ball, pick it up, and get it to another player. Also has options to level into general and passing skills, which is pretty good. Then we have the Storm Vermin. These are the blitzers of the team. As you can see, they have access to strength skills and general skills, and they start with block. They can only have 2 of these on a Skaven team, so your fighting options are kind of limited. And then here we have arguably the most important player on the Skaven team, of which you can have up to 4 of these, which are Gutter Runners. A whopping 9 movement to start with on the Gutter Runner, but only 2 strength. However, they do have 4 agility. And then 7 armor, so they're a little bit squishy, but man, they can really get across the field. If you are not locking down these gutter runners, they will just completely outmaneuver you at every turn. And with 4 agility, putting them at the same level as an elf in terms of agility, they're very good at passing, they're very good at catching, and they can dodge without any issue. They also start with the dodge skill by default, making it even easier for them to get out of tackle zones, and they have access to general and agility skills by default. Gutter runners are insane, and if you're going up against a Skaven player, my recommendation is that you try and kill all of them right off the bat. The gutter runners are by far what make the Skaven team good. Also, something to note about the Skaven team is that all the players have access to mutations on doubles, but not by default. So they can get mutations, which is nice if they're able to, but it's not reliable. Alright, with all that said, let's go ahead and hop right into the match. Okay, here we go. Looking at the starting formation for the Skaven team. I'm not sure who won the coin flip here, but it was decided that the Orks would be receiving first. So right now we have this for the Skaven defense. Now, as I said before, the Skaven, they're not as good at fighting because they have lower armor on their linemen. Their gutter runners have lower strength, and that's going to be the highest count positional that they have on their team as well. And they have lower armor. They only have 2 players that start with block, and that's all they're going to get. And then their thrower also has lower armor. So right now he only has 2 players here on the team that actually have a normal armor value going up against Orks, who are one of the most straightforward bashy teams in the game. You got 4 Black Horse, you got a Troll, you got 4 Blitzers with blocks. So obviously playing defense, the Skaven are not going to be doing a very good job at fighting. So what needs to be done instead is kind of keeping away from your opponent and doing a screening strategy where you're just going to have all of your players a step or 2 away from the opponent, so they have to come to you and they have to move through your tackle zones, and if they want to break a hole in your line, they have to use a blitz to do it. So a formation like this where you have most of your players freed up off the line makes sense. You only got 3 linemen on the front, they're expendable, that's where you want them. I don't really think that you need gutter runners this far back, and I would probably spread out the team just a little bit more so they can more easily cover the sides. maybe put the gutter runners just on the sides to be able to respond to whatever happens with the kick a little bit easier. You know, you could have a gutter runner over here, a gutter runner over here, maybe have this guy right here, so you have two that can go either way. That would make sense to me. And unfortunately, because the agility of most of the Skaven players is not very high, aside from the gutter runners, you're not going to be able to do a whole lot of dodging with the rest of your team. So you're not going to be able to do something that elves would do, for instance, like just pulling your players away one space each turn. But you do need to be making effective use of your tackle zones to stop this advance. The Skaven have a pretty weak defense, and generally what your strategy is going to be as a Skaven player is, instead of just playing straight defense, you're going to, as quickly as you can, turn it into an offensive play by using your gutter runners to just sneak the ball out from under the other player. So overall, this formation is alright. I just don't really think you need this guy in the back here. He's not doing anything. Moving on to how the Orks set up in response. Bearing in mind that the Orks are on offense here, they're going to be receiving the ball. Perfect defense. Okay. Real quick, just look at the Ork formation. I mean, this is pretty standard. Get your Black Orks and your Troll all in the line. Line up those hits pretty early on for the first turn. Got your Goblin in the back. He's going to be the one that's going to be picking up the ball most likely. He also has the thrower here, which could have been the one to go get the ball. I guess normally you would probably have your thrower pick up the ball and then maybe send it to the Goblin. When it comes to Orks, you can have your thrower be your ball carrier. You can be the Goblin, be the ball carrier. It doesn't really matter which. You know, your Goblin is a bit more mobile, but he is weaker. You do have the opportunity with Goblin that you can get the Goblin the ball, move them to the Troll, and then have the Troll throw over the enemy team and go for a touchdown that way, which is not something that's necessarily going to work very often, but when it does, it could be pretty funny. And I have done it myself, and it is a viable strategy. People do it, and it is something that the opposing player needs to be aware of, in that it can happen. So having your Goblin back here to catch the ball, that's all right, but considering you have the thrower, it might have been better to just have the Goblin a little bit more forward. You know, if you have the Goblin up here near the Troll to begin with on the first turn, you could have the thrower get the ball and move that ball to the Goblin, have the Troll throw the Goblin if you wanted. Not something I would expect new players to do, but it's something you can do. Having your Blitzers on the wings like this, not up on the line of scrimmage, is pretty good because you want to be able to move them around and have them go for openings where they come up. And the Black Orks don't really need help, especially against the Skaven team, so this is a pretty good formation overall. However, the Skaven did get the perfect defense, so they got to rework their formation here. And it looks like the Skaven player opted to move a couple of his gutter runners over to the right side of the field in preparation to start going for the ball there and try sneaking out from under the Ork player. Once again, leaving this gutter runner in the back for some reason, but otherwise, this is fine. That makes sense. Orks start off, go for the ball with a Goblin. Goblin drops it, uses a reroll. Gets the ball. And unfortunately fails the going for it roll and moving it to the right side of the field. You gotta be careful with the going for it rolls. I would not be making them unless you absolutely need to. They can be deceptively easy. You think you're nailing all of them, and then suddenly you just lose it. You can see how far the Skaven player was able to move with that gutter runner there. 9 movement is nothing to scoff at. It's pretty terrifying. Using his linemen to mark players in preparation. Moving the gutter runner as close to the ball as you can. Getting the ball is going to be a little bit difficult considering it's right next to a blitzer. But these gutter runners are already just maneuvering down the field, encircling the ball. Easy first dodge. Gutter runners have very reliable dodges. And that was pretty daring, moving the linemen away from the enemy team like that. Not very reliable dodges, but it was smart to keep it till the end of the turn so that it didn't ruin the rest of the setup. So already the Orks are in a precarious position here. Goes for the pickup of the blitzer. -1 penalty because there's a gutter runner on it. Gets it anyway, manages to dodge out of the way. Moves into these black orcs. Black orcs, my bad. My mouth is very dry today. Ooh, and unfortunately goes for a dodge roll with the troll. I'm not sure if that was accidental or not, but that's almost never a good idea. Especially as that was a dodge into another tackle zone, making it pretty much impossible for the troll to ever do that. Lining up a hit on the goblin with Gutter Runner. And gets a KO. You don't normally see attacks made with Gutter Runners, but you can do them. Typically just gets lower strength enemies like that goblin. Having that done against an orc is unlikely. Now it looks like the Skaven player is just trying to keep the ball carrier marked. Goes for a blitz with the Storm Vermin. Double skulls. Uses a reroll, gets the hit. Knocks it away from the center of the field, and the ball is now in the open. Grabs it with the thrower. Passes it to Gutter Runner. Fails the pass. Unfortunately, even with the pass skill, didn't manage to get it there. Now, something to say there is that the thrower has 7 movement, and I think the thrower moved 3 spaces to pick up the ball for that pass. Definitely could have picked up the ball and moved a little bit closer before making the pass to make that more reliable. Probably would have gotten it if that were the case. Now, the orc player's really got to worry about the ball being so close to his end zone. Grabs the ball with the thrower, passes, and unfortunately fails the pass. Might have been able to move a little bit closer, not sure. That being said, though, the ball's in a good spot towards the center of the field right next to a black orc, so it's probably not going anywhere. Skaven players trying to knock all these opposition players out of the way right now. Goes for a dodge with alignment and blitzes into this blitzer here. Manages to get the hit. Opens up the way for the ball thrower. Looks like he's marking the black orc by the ball. Can't hit him this turn though, so. But he is setting up the Storm Vermin to be able to do it next turn, I suppose. Gutter Runners once again maneuvering into the center of the opposition here, trying to scoop up the ball. And unfortunately fails the pickup, re-rolls. Gets the ball, and dodges away. Just look at that, that's terrifying. Don't you hate that? Goes for a pass with the ball and misses. I imagine throwing to that Gutter Runner there. Ball's moving all over the place this match. Troll procs really stupid, unfortunate for the orc player. Stands up his other players and tries to pick up the ball with the thrower, it looks like. No, just gets him a little bit closer. He's trying to move his team over to the ball to secure it. This is a good call. Alright, gets the ball with the blitzer, moving it away from the end zone. And unfortunately trips the black orc. I would say here that the orc player at this point really needs to be trying to make some hits with the black orcs. They haven't punched at all, and when you have a low armor Skaven team like this, just get their players out of the game. Obviously, you want to try and defend that blitzer, but considering the only one in range to do that was the black orc and that dodge was never going to happen, I think the hits were more important. Skaven player sidelines the ball carrier. No injury from the crowd. Where does the ball go? Right into the middle of the field, where it started. This is good for the orc player. Got 2 black orcs covering the ball right now. Skaven player trying to get those black orcs away from the ball so he can go for a pickup. Gets the thrower right on the ball, picks it up. And now starts forming a cage. Still has that black orc right on the ball carrier though. God, these Gutter Runners just slipping out of danger, no issue. You can see how these guys just get in and out, and you can't lock them down. So any opportunity that you get to hit a Gutter Runner, in my opinion, needs to be taken. The sooner you can kill them, the better. They are the threat of the Skaven team. Without the Gutter Runners, they have nothing. Goes for a hit on the ball carrier. Unfortunately, rolls them both down, and he's out of re-rolls. However, the ball bounces to a Storm Vermin. Sword Vermin's an okay ball carrier. It's no gutter runner. Oh, it goes for the handoff. Fails. Re-rolls. Manages to catch it with a lineman. But goes for a dodge and trips. Lots of failed dodge rolls in this match. So that's all well and good trying to make that move there in the middle of the field, but consider that the Skaven player has 3 players on the side of the field that just weren't moved at all that turn. Probably should have moved those first. Orc player going for a hit on a gutter runner. Unfortunately, dodge saves the day and fails the dodge roll with a black orc. Again, you really cannot be making dodges with black orcs. They only have 2 agility. They dodge very poorly, and you're dodging in and out of tackle zones. It's just not going to happen. You got to be going for hits. That's the strength of the orc team, is just make hits wherever possible. You know, when you're playing Blood Bowl and you're playing a match, it can seem like your main goal should be getting the ball and scoring a touchdown, but sometimes it's equally as good to just make sure the opponent is not scoring touchdowns and you're going for hits instead, especially when you're playing a bashy team. You know, stopping the Skaven from scoring at any cost is definitely the strategy here. And I think there's a little bit too much emphasis being made on going for the ball when there are just plenty of hits to be made. In fact, it feels like we see the Skaven player going for more hits. Manages to pick up the ball, dodges out of the tackle zone, and he's 2 steps away from the end zone. Alright, right there at the end, just a small comment. Skaven player was right here, and then ended right here by making some going for it rolls. If you're going to do that, you might as well just keep inching towards the end zone, you know. Because you never know what might happen, but there's no reason to just go completely sideways like that. Alright, Orc players standing back up. Probably not going to be able to stop the gutter runner. Once the gutter runner gets away from you, it's kind of game over. You're never going to catch them. They're just so much faster than you. So, once again, I would say you just got to start going for hits here. You just got to start hitting those Skaven. Get those players off the field. Unfortunately, that troll is isolated and doesn't have a friendly player to help him out. Goes for a foul with a black orc. Doesn't get it. Luckily not ejected. Goes for a hit with the black orc against the gutter runner. Only a push. That's the end of the orc turn. And there we have first touchdown from the Skaven at halftime. Going into halftime, the Orcs are down 1 player. Oh, but the Goblin wakes back up. Alright, it's back to 11 on 11. All players on the field. Let's see these formations. Going to be starting with defense from the Orcs. I'm not really sure what the thought process is with this one. You have kind of a disconnected formation. You got a black orc off the line, which isn't really where he's useful. You know, if I had a suggestion here, I would say that since you're playing against Skaven, you should spread your players out. You want to have your black orcs probably spread out as far along the line as you possibly can, because they're going to be the hardest for the Skaven to knock down, so you can use their tackle zones most effectively. But having them all the way back here doesn't really do anything for you. Ball's not being kicked to you, so you don't really need the thrower all the way back here. Having the Goblin right next to the Troll would probably be a good move, so that the Troll has company and doesn't suffer as badly from the really stupid modifier, especially if you're going to spread your Black Orcs out, so they're not right next to the Troll either. And then otherwise, the blitzers are probably fine. So, not really sure about this formation. Now, Skaven know that they're going to have the ball kicked to them, and they see this formation, so Where are the weak spots that they can exploit? That is the question. Immediately sets the gun runners up on the sides, getting ready to dive into the enemy's side of the field with the ball. Go for the kick. Skaven get a reroll. Pretty good kick from the Orks. But the Skaven have a thrower. Goes for the ball. Picks it up. Does he go for the pass? Nope. Goes for a dodge instead with the Storm Vermin. Unfortunate. Probably would have just passed to one of the gutter runners and then seen what you could have made there. One of the other things I should say is that with this Skaven formation, again, you're so heavily outclassed in terms of strength and combat ability against this team. I don't think there was any reason to have the Storm Vermin on the fields. I would just be having 3 linemen and nothing else on the line of scrimmage every time, really. You know, you need those Storm Vermin available to kind of go wherever they can so that they can help other people out. Right here I'm seeing an opening on the right side of the field for the Skaven. Could very easily throw the ball to a gutter runner and then run them along the edge of the field. The Black Orks might have more strength than your gutter runners, but your gutter runners have dodge, so they're pretty difficult to hit. Orks start taking out the center of the field, dealing with all the players on the line of scrimmage. Getting a couple of hits here, nothing crazy yet, just a stun on a lineman. Orks probably should have been following through on these hits. When you're playing against a squishy high-agi team like this, you want to be forcing them to dodge away from you as much as possible. So on every hit, I would be following and keeping the pressure going. Left side of the field is looking really strong for the Orks. But unfortunately, the Skaven have the ball carrier back here with the ball. He's got pass, could very easily hand this off to a gutter runner. Next thing you know, this gutter runner could be running along the side of the field and be all the way down here without any issue because there's nobody covering the right side of the field right now. So that is something that the Skaven players should be making note of immediately. Start standing up as players. Doesn't move the Storm Vermin. Alright, moves a thrower over to the gutter runner. Makes the pass. Ooh, unfortunately, even with 83%, he still drops it. Twice in a row. You hate to see that. 1 in 36 chance that was going to happen. Not a whole lot you can do in that department, unless you wanted to do a handoff, but that's just bad luck right there. Now, fortunately, this gives the Orks, or rather, fortunately for the Orks, it gives them an opportunity to secure the ball and stop the gutter runners from running up the field like they wanted to. And you can see now on this turn, now the Ork has to spend all of his time moving his players up, and he can't make hits that he would have been able to do if they were already there from following attacks. That's why you got to be following your attacks in this situation. If the Ork player had followed their attacks last turn, probably could have made another 5 or 6 hits. Skaven goes for a dodge of the Storm Vermin. Fortunately, fails the dodge roll both times. One thing I gotta say is that, like, clearly the Skaven player was going to blitz somebody over here, but my question is, why not just use this blitzer that wasn't marked by anybody? Make sure that when you're going for these plays, you see which players are actually available, because that dodge roll did not need to be attempted whatsoever. Orks trying to push the gutter runners off the ball to secure it. Once again, follow through with your hits, man. You gotta follow through. Moves in, gets the ball with the Goblin, pushes forward a little bit, but now you've put the Goblin in a precarious situation. He's ahead of your line and has no defense, really. Ideally, you want your cages to be on the corners so they can't get close to the ball carrier, but makes a dodge roll with the troll, doesn't pay off. Once again, I would avoid dodging with the troll wherever possible. They're very bad at it. Skaven goes for a hit on the Goblin. Doesn't get it. Now the Goblin's in a much safer position. Skaven player maneuvering Gutter Runner through the line back here. You can see those dodge rolls, man. Look at that. It's just crazy. You gotta take every opportunity you can to hit those Gutter Runners. If you ever have a chance to punch them, then punch them. You gotta get them off the field because you're never gonna catch them. They're just way too slippery. Now the Orks are a bit enveloped here. Needs to start clearing some space for the ball. Goes for a blitz of the thrower, probably not the move there. You know, I imagine the plan here was to get rid of that Gutter Runner and then move the Goblin along the side of the field. To the side of the field, rather. But I think it's just more important to start clearing people off the ball runner first. Also, could have been potential here, although it would have been a little bit tricky to set up. But if you could clear these 3 rats away from the troll, it would have been possible to move the Goblin over behind the troll, and again, have the troll throw the Goblin towards the end zone, get a touchdown. Again, not something I expect a new player to be thinking about, but when you have the ability to do it on the team, you should start thinking about it because it can sometimes be a way to get a touchdown, and it's very funny, and it does work sometimes. Also, there's not a whole lot of risk with throwing your teammates. Depending on an Orc team, it's a little bit trickier because the Goblin's probably going to be the one carrying the ball. But as a general rule, if you use the throw teammate ability on a troll or an ogre or whoever else can do it, it does not count as a turnover if it fails unless the person being thrown has the ball. That is the only reason it would count as a turnover. So assuming that throw succeeds and the Goblin lands, you can just walk right into the end zone. But if it does fail, you know, potentially you've still gotten the Goblin and the ball towards the other side of the field, but that would count as a turnover in that case. Just something to think about, though. Orcs are in a little bit of a tight position right here, kind of getting enveloped by the Skaven. Hits the Goblin, ball bounces around. Where does it go? Into the back of the line. Sure hands did not pay off there for the thrower. Very unfortunate. Skaven getting some unfortunate rolls this match when it comes to picking up the ball. Orcs immediately go for a dodge, 17%. Remember, when you're moving from one tackle zone into another, that's going to be a more difficult dodge than if you were to move from a tackle zone to an open space. Especially that move right there. Very, very difficult dodge. Gutter Runner got pretty lucky there with that dodge roll. Skaven's trying to go for hits, clear people away. Picks up the ball. Who's he tossing to? To the other side of the team. Ooh, interception. Those are rare. Very unfortunate for the Skaven player. Great for the Orc player. Alright, can he clear players off of the ball carrier? That's one. Starts going for hits. You can see what a mess this mosh pit in the middle of the field is right here. I would say before even going for these hits, the Orc player should probably move his other teammates into position to assist with all of this punching, because right now you got these 4 players in the back that haven't really done anything. And unfortunately fails the dodge roll. So many failed dodges in this match. This is just unfortunate. Oh, I hate to see it. Alright, well, getting a touchdown. Oh, that going for it roll. Oh my god. Oh no. Injured thrower. No long-term effect though. Oh, this is rough to watch. Blitzer manages to catch the ball, though. Whew. Okay. So, seeing as this is the last turn for the Skaven, let's just take a quick moment and think, what can the Skaven do here? Okay. Now, as I said before, whenever you make a turn in this game, I think it's important to say, what are my options, and what is the most important move that I can be making here? Believe it or not, the Skaven player 100% has a touchdown opportunity in this situation. The question is, can they capitalize on it? Now, I guess I'll give you a moment and see if you can see the touchdown opportunity. It's a slim one. It is a slim one, but it is possible. And the way that I would do it is pretty simple. First, I would take this gutter runner right here, and I would stand him up, move him out of the enemy tackle zone, and then back in so that he's marking this blitzer right here. Then, I would take probably this lineman that's moving right now. Storm Vermin, I don't think we'll be able to reach. So let's just check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah. No. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. No, okay. This Storm Vermin definitely could blitz to follow up and hit this blitzer here. Hopefully get a knockdown. And it would be a 2-die roll because the gutter runner would be marking. You could knock down, push this blitzer to this space, hopefully causing the ball to drop somewhere in this area. And then, assuming that it's open, which it very well could be, move the thrower around, have the thrower pick up the ball, move, pass it to this gutter runner, and then this gutter runner is in range to get into the end zone. 9 movement, only has to move 10 spaces. That's a single going for it roll. So, it is definitely possible for the Skaven player to be getting a touchdown right now. It's just going to rely on a bit of luck and be kind of tricky. Let's see what he does. Moves the lineman around. Nah, just marking the ball carrier, it looks like. Probably going to go for a hit, but not going to be able to actually use it to get a touchdown, I imagine. Does get a knockdown. Okay, this is still possible. Yeah, and that's not the move. Now, all things considered, with the way that went, in this situation, before moving that gutter runner, once the blitzer got knocked down, I would have moved this gutter runner down and around, pick up the ball, pass to the other gutter runner, have that gutter runner go for the touchdown. The way it was done here, your only player that had a chance of reaching the end zone was that gutter runner right there, and you were not able to capitalize on it. So unfortunately, no touchdown this turn. And needlessly makes it going for a roll on the final turn. That could result in injury. You got to be careful about that. Orks here just need to make as many hits as they can and hope they get injuries. There's no reason to go for the ball right now. Goes and picks up the ball of the goblin anyway. And goes for a pass. Doesn't get it. Probably just trying to get skill points or something, I imagine. Alright, and that's the end of the match. Well, what to say about that? I think that the Skaven had the right idea, but didn't necessarily execute the strategies as best they could. However, it did get MVP on a gutter runner, which is very nice of them. If you get even 1 level up on a gutter runner, you can get sprint, which will enable you to get those turn 1 touchdowns from the line of scrimmage. Not necessarily the best idea, because ideally what you want is more movement and not the opportunity to make a 3rd going for it roll, because that's just making 3 going forwards in a row is not particularly reliable, but it's possible. Something to think about. And then the Orks MVP on the thrower, not the best. I mean, you can make a better thrower. You could probably give him a block or something, but make him something of a ball carrier. But probably better players than MVP could have gone to, so unfortunately not terribly helpful. Did get an injury though with Morcar, it looks like. So 2 skill points on whoever that player is. And then 5 skill points on a gutter runner, 3 on another gutter runner, so that's alright for this Skaven. Yeah, like I said, Skaven player could have executed their strategy a little bit better, but they had the right idea in mind and unfortunately had a lot of unlucky rolls. Orc player, I think, just needed to be punching a lot more and not worrying as much about maneuvering. You're not going to outmaneuver a Skaven team. It's just not going to happen, so you just want to take them out and take them down wherever possible. Alright, well that's all for this match. I hope you enjoyed. Hopefully you found that helpful. That was the final match of week 1, so in the next video we'll be looking at the first matches of week 2, so I'll see you then.